Astrophotography is the art of capturing images of celestial objects, such as stars, planets, galaxies, and nebulae, using a mirror and a telescope or other optical instruments. One of the critical factors that determine the quality and clarity of astrophotography images is the exposure time. Exposure time refers to the duration that the camera sensor is exposed to the light of the celestial object. The longer the exposure time, the more light the camera sensor collects, resulting in a brighter and more detailed image. However, a longer exposure time also increases the risk of image noise and other artifacts that can degrade the quality of the image. The optimal exposure time for astrophotography depends on several factors, including the brightness of the object, the sensitivity of the camera sensor, and the tracking accuracy of the telescope mount. For faint objects like galaxies and nebulae, longer exposure times are required to collect enough light for a clear image. In contrast, brighter objects like planets and stars require shorter exposure times to avoid overexposure and blooming, which can saturate the image and cause it to lose detail. The sensitivity of the camera sensor, measured in ISO, also affects the exposure time. Higher ISO values allow for shorter exposure times, as the sensor can collect more light in a shorter duration. However, higher ISO values also increase the noise level, resulting in a grainy or speckled appearance in the image. There are several techniques for determining the optimal exposure time for astrophotography, including the rule of 500, the rule of 600, and the histogram method. The rule of 500 and 600 suggests that the maximum exposure time for astrophotography should be no more than 500 or 600 divided by the focal length of the lens or telescope. The histogram method involves adjusting the exposure time until the image histogram peaks in the middle of the dynamic range, with no clipped highlights or shadows. This method ensures that the image is correctly exposed, with good contrast and detail. Exposure time is a critical factor in astrophotography, affecting the brightness, detail, and quality of the image. The optimal exposure time depends on several factors, including the brightness of the object, the sensitivity of the camera sensor, and the tracking accuracy of the telescope mount.